Hi kids. Today I've got more work to do than I can probably get done. I need to put the air conditioner hose in the Element, and I need to put the radiator in the Mitsubishi. We're going to start with the Mitsubishi because that is critical. If that radiator goes out in the next week or so, I'm going to catch hell because we're trying to plan my wife's fashion show and just don't need these kind of hassles. So this is a clue, guys. If you're getting weird looking stuff that's green or white or whatever all over the inside of your motor, you've got a radiator leak probably. And as we can see that, how wet that is? That looks like that might even be a crack in the radiator itself. So that's actually exactly what that looks like. Of course, it's turning white, which is we've covered before on Denso radiators. These are supposed to be black. So if this is starting to turn gray or white, it's old. The plastic's brittle. It's time to start thinking about changing it before it does this. Put you in a bind where you really don't have enough time to do it. Or you end up blowing up your motor beside the highway somewhere. So here's the new radiator. This is a Rock Auto cheapie. So to start with, we want to compare this to what's in the car and make sure it's actually going to fit. I don't want to take this apart and then find out my part is the wrong part. Radiator itself looks pretty good. So as we can see, this bolt lines up with this pin lines up with that. Everything looks like it's lining up. This bolt seems to be lining up. So we're going to call that fairly well matched. So we're going to start at the starting place, the bucket. I don't care whose bucket, just get you a bucket. So these have like a little plastic Phillips screw kind of thing. You can take it out with a screwdriver. There we go. Once you get that center piece out, the rest of it just pops out. All right, there's that. Now that we've got that cover off, we can really see where the leak is. It's that gasket. It's always this gasket. This is a metal core on your radiator, crimped to these plastic caps. Way back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, this would have been maybe brass and it would have been soldered to the center core. So things were built a lot differently then. They were a lot more expensive. You wouldn't have gotten a $100 radiator for this car back then. It would have been $300 because it's a more expensive part with a more expensive process. There's the Denso stamp that we were talking about earlier. So I was right, that is a Denso. There's the part number. There's the part number on the new one. So we do have the same part number. Here we go, 4 bolts. Should take the top of that core support out. All right, with those 4 bolts, does it come out? No. All right, look out. Oh, okay. It's got at least 1 bolt in the front here and front here. So let's go after that. So to get that, I need to take these little grills out, which is again, these little clipper things. Time is the issue here. Yeah, see that? Got to squeeze that little clip to get it to come out. Some of my favorite tools. This bolt here and this bolt here. Maybe undoing those will get us enough room to pull that back. Let's find out. Okay, pull these out. Plenty of room. Plenty of room. In various cars, this structure is called the core support. The reason is it supports the core. It supports the cooling core of your car. So there's that out of the way. Now look at there. Look at all this room we've got. So we're going to take these off to get the air conditioner coil loose from the radiator. Before I go any further, because this car is still kind of warm, I'm going to go ahead and pop this cap and relieve any pressure we've got in that. I'm going to show you how to do that without burning yourself to death, because that would probably put a damper on your day, pun intended. So what I'm going to do is take this heavy shirt, throw it over this, use a towel, whatever. use something that is dry and fairly substantial. Turn the cap and relieve any pressure that's on it. I'm not going to take my hands off of it because I don't want it to blow out. And if it's got a lot of pressure, I can close it back again. All right, I suspect this thing has leaked so much that it's barely got any pressure or coolant in it at all. And I'm right. So there's our cap. If you remember, a couple of years ago, this thing broke, caused her to overheat then. Bucket. Think. This hose here is our reservoir overflow. It's just allows your system to have somewhere to expand when the fluid expands and tracks. Upper line. Because I've got so much room, I'm going to leave the fans hooked up and bolted up, and I'm going to take this all out as one unit, swap in the new one. I'm going to figure out how that coil comes off of there. The plugs for the fans are very similar to Honda stuff if you're used to working on Honda stuff. These shouldn't throw you for a loop. There's one. There we go. Pop that loose. All right, that should be loose and ready to be removed. The wiring's all unhooked. So the next thing to do is go into the bottom, take the transmission cooler lines loose and the bottom radiator hose. I drained it earlier, but it's still got a little bit left in it. I should put a catch pan under that. Always put a catch pan under this, kids. Always. All right, there's one clamp. Where's the other one? There it is. I'm grabbing these from the top because it's easier, only because I did not put the car up on ramps. I should have done that. Okay, there's the two hoses pulled back. Okay, transmission lines are unhooked. Tuck those up where they'll leak a little less. Oh, okay. So there's a bolt in either side. There's a bolt down there and another bolt down there that we will have to get out, and that should make this thing come right on out. See this bolt right here? Loosen that up. That's slotted, right? Now it's loose enough to get that condenser off. Just loosen that up a little and it should slip out because it's slotted. So you get the idea, right? We're just going to swap those fans over to this, throw it right back in. All right, so your future reference, these two bottom bolts are slotted, so you could loosen these and pull that fan out the top. A lot of Hondas are built like that as well. Now it's ready to go back in. We're going to carefully work this back down in there. Radiators are delicate things, so don't go getting too nuts with how you put them in and take them out. Don't get violent. That's what I'm trying to say here. Violence is not the answer. All right, wrestle this in here. Delicately though, you want to be careful. A radiator is not something to be slammed around. There goes that. By hooking up our hoses, because they get a little fiddly. 1, 2, there we go. Put that on a little more. from where I'm sitting, it looks like it's all the way on, but from where you are, you can probably tell I didn't get it on far enough. Alright, that ought to be better. Yeah. Double check this stuff. You do not want a transmission line coming loose when you're going down the road either. Lost a little bit of fluid, so I'll have to top that off. And the radiator hose. The rest of this is just the opposite of what we were doing. Our fans are already set up and ready to go. So we can pop all these little plastic holder thingies back in, plug the plugs back in. Uh-oh, there goes Albie. Gonna go ahead and hook up the condenser coil. This top hose back up. The side bolts I'm talking about are right here. I've went ahead and got this bolt out and this bolt out, and I'm gonna crawl under the car and put them in the new one. All right, I did this on the Honda when I did it. Now I've got to go back in there and put these on. These are rubber keepers that go on the bottom of the radiator and into the frame. Keeps it from wobbling around. And I forgot this, so get under there and put that back in. See, it's supposed to go right here. Just kind of a bumper. Keep it from wobbling too much. Easier to do before you put the stupid radiator in. Take my word on that. There's one. Yay, urethra. Since we're all down here, might as well put this in. And now we do the other side. There it is. All right, let's move back up top. Putting the grill back in. Go into my private parts stash because we're missing a few pieces on this. There we go, that's perfect. Yay! Last thing to do is to fill her up with some coolant, bring it up to temp, make sure everything holds. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that if you're doing this and you haven't done any of these other things before, if you're planning on keeping your car, you might want to go ahead and put in new hoses, new thermostat, and definitely, if you've never changed it before, a new radiator cap. What you'll find on a broken one is that little plastic piece that is the piece that allows your system to equalize its pressure will be gone. What happens is your system heats up, and as it heats up, any heat increase in it will cause an increase in pressure inside your radiator. This cap is designed to hold that pressure up to a certain point. At a certain point, it's designed to relieve that pressure so that your radiator doesn't bust. It lets it run over here to the overflow. When it cools back down, it lets it suck that overflow back into the radiator by opening and closing this little valve. If this thing is broke off and not opening and closing, it's just open all the time, it'll let fluid pump back to your reservoir even though it's not over temp. That will overflow your reservoir, and your reservoir will dump it out on the ground while you're driving. Then when you get where you're going, you're a little bit lower on coolant. And the next time, you're a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, and eventually, if you're not checking this thing regularly, which a lot of people don't, this little radiator cap that's $6 brand new will cost you a motor or a head gasket or something fun like that. So what I'm trying to get at is, it's a cheap part and it can leave you stranded. Always replace cheap parts that can leave you stranded every 50 or 100,000 miles. If you're going to keep old junky cars, these are the kind of things you got to think about. Looking fairly decent. A little smoke coming off of there where I sprayed the intake manifold. There's the O2 sensor. There's another O2 sensor. One of those is bad. I need to take that out and replace it. Let's see. Yeah, we're about up to temp here. So that's it, kids. If you've been watching my videos long enough, you should be well equipped to replace just about any modern radiator. 2005 Mitsubishi Galant V6. Radiators are one of those things that's going to cost you a fortune at the shop, but you can do it yourself. I promise. You can do this. See you next week.